UFC 301 is this week. I'm going to give you a full card prediction and breakdown of all 14 fights on this card, starting with Alessandro Costa versus Kevin Borjas. I'm going to go with Alessandro Costa in this fight. Kevin Borjas, when he was on the Contender Series, I did pick him. Plus, 300 or something underdog. Probably one of my better picks on the Contender Series because I had to find some video. Because the thing with the Contender Series guys, or some of them, is that you can't find adequate tape for any of them. I found some 30-second clip on Facebook of him having decent takedown defense. So that's what won me that pick there. And Dana White Contender Series is just a completely different beast. But in his last fight, he actually started out really good against a pretty good opponent against Joshua Van. Nice 1-2 down the middle. Completely destroyed Joshua Van for that first round, and then even caught him in that in the third round as well. But I'm gonna go with Alessandro Costa here. I'm not a fan of Kevin Borjas' takedown defense, weirdly enough, because that's why I took him in the Dana White Contender Series fight. I bet on him that way. But Costa, I think, is just super strong, super powerful. There's a lot of hooks. And I think Kevin Borjas kind of keeps that chin up. I'm not going to say that Costa is as good of a puncher as Joshua Van, because Joshua Van just started eating up the body of Kevin Borjas, really putting on a nice boxing clinic on Borjas after that first round. I don't think Costa is going to be able to do that, but he does have a lot of power. He's really fast hands, and I think he's just going to be a lot stronger than Kevin Borjas. And I think outside of the first round, maybe where Borjas will have some success, I think he's going to be able to get takedowns on Borjas and just outmuscle him to the ground. He's even able to do it to Erceg, outmuscle him to the ground and hop into hit the mount. Although Erceg is probably a much better guy at getting out of those positions, I don't think Borjas is. So I'm going to go with Costa in this fight. I think he relies on his takedowns, relies on the grappling. He does have power on the feet as well, so I think he's going to get Borjas' attention as well. But Borjas, I think, is super young, so he's going to develop more into his game. But as of right now, it's a lot more of the basic stuff. He has a decent jab, sets it up with a 2, and that's pretty much what we're looking at there. So I'm going to go Costa by decision. I don't think he KOs Borjas. I think he just ends up controlling Borjas for probably 29-28 decision, winning the second and third round. Up the card, we have Ismael Bonfim versus Vinc Pichel. I'm going with Ismael Bonfim. Pichel is, 41 years of age. This is kind of just a layup for Ismael Bonfim after that Benoit St. Denis fight where he got hit to the body. He's like, come on. And he just kept getting hit to the body and couldn't really do anything about it. So, but Benoit St. Denis is pretty good. Minus 450 favorite for Bonfim. I don't see a world at all where Bonfim loses this fight. Last fight for Pichel was, 2 years ago against Mark Madsen, and Mark Madsen was landing decent on him. So I'm going Ismael Bonfim. Good on the feet, good on the ground. Those Bonfim brothers, very talented. Maybe once they put it together, it'll be a little bit different. They're both pretty young as well. No, I'm not talking about Pichel, but I'm talking about the Bonfim brothers. But maybe Bonfim will be able to put it together later on in his career. But as of right now, I think he just runs through Vinc Pichel. So probably by KO is what I'm going to say. Maybe submission. 41 years of age. I mean, you can't really take him too seriously in this fight. So I'm going to go Bonfim. Good on the ground, good on the feet. Beats him wherever he wants. Is basically what this is. I think by finish as well. Up the card, we had Dione Barbosa versus Ernesta Kareckaite. I think is how you say that. I'm going to go with Ernesta. She looks all right. Barbosa doesn't look that good. I mean, they both really don't look that good. I'm going to be honest. The thing about Kareckaite, I think is how you say your name, or Ernesta. I'm just going to go by Ernesta. She had a pretty good scrap on the Contender Series against Carly Judas. I think that was a relatively pretty big women's fight too, because I remember doing quite a bit of research for that one. But she's pretty technical. Did these ladies fight before? Not Barbosa, but I don't know. It's something going into. I remember just doing a lot of research for this fight for some reason, but I'm gonna go Ernesta. She's scrappier. She doesn't look horrible on the feet. Barbosa, she just had a really weird matchup where she ended up getting the armbar, but was just getting completely out controlled on the ground. I don't know if it gets there. Ernesta is very long. What is this? She's 5'9". She looks really lengthy and tall, so maybe Barbosa can catch a limb here and submit her. I don't think that's going to be the case here. Ernesta, I think it's just going to be a lot better on the feet. I don't think she wins by KO, but this is a low-level women's MMA fight. 25 years of age. I think you're kind of just betting on Ernesta maybe developing more, having a little bit more talent at this point in her career. So I'm going Ernesta by decision. The card, we have Mauricio Ruffy versus Jamie Mullarkey. I feel like you kind of just have to go with Mauricio Ruffy at this point. I think the jury's out on Jamie Mullarkey. I can count so many times where I've kind of just picked him and then he just completely shit the bed. Francisco Prado, he lost to by decision. Michael Johnson, he probably should have lost that fight. And let's be real, if we're looking at a potential loss here for Mullarkey, it's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. So maybe he's due for a win after the Nasrat Haqparast KO. And Haqparast doesn't really KO people either. So that's even a little bit more concerning. Muhammad Naimov KO'd Jamie Mullarkey. Mauricio Ruffy, I believe, has all finishes in his career. All of them, 9 wins by finish. His loss was by finish as well. I don't think Jamie Mullarkey's going to finish Ruffy in this fight. It is kind of hard to find tape on Ruffy. I've been looking a little bit. I think one of the only fights that I tried looking for was a Souza fight. I wasn't looking for it in particular, but I put it in on YouTube and it just shows him getting flatlined, so it didn't really help too much. But his last fight in the Contender Series, he was doing all right, but Magomed Daliev kind of just gassed out at the end and just got beaten up, and Ruffy kind of broke him a little bit. So I'm going to go Ruffy here. I just can't trust Jamie Mullarkey in this fight. He's 29 years of age as well, which is kind of crazy how young he is, and you still can't trust him in this fight. So I'm going to go Mauricio Ruffy, probably by finish. If he has the KO power to probably take out Mullarkey, it's just a matter of when in this fight. Because I don't know. It was the Contender Series fight. He did end up getting the finish against Magomed Daliev. We'll kind of just see how long it takes him to get going in this fight. There's a lot to be seen from Ruffy against decent UFC competition. So up the card, we have Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. I'm going to go with Drakkar Klose. I mean, Drakkar Klose is very good. He won against Joe Solecki by slam KO, which was pretty brutal in his last fight. Beat Rafa Garcia by decision and then beat Brandon Jenkins about 2 years ago. I believe he had like some kind of spinal issue or a neck issue from one of those face-offs. I forgot who it was against. Maybe I can... Was it against Stevens? Was it that one? Yeah, it was some kind of injury. I don't remember. It was actually way long ago. But Joaquim Silva coming off of, I guess he beat Clay Guida, but before then, Arman Sarukian hurt him a little bit, and that was pretty much all. He's a very big, roided power puncher is basically all it is for Silva. Silva's decent. Like, you have a lot of those Brazilian guys, like even at Costa, I probably should have mentioned a little bit. You have like one guy in that any of the divisions where it's a very strong Brazilian with a lot of KO power. That's just pretty tough for everybody. So maybe Silva can be that guy in this fight and KO Drakkar Klose, who is 36 years of age. But I think Drakkar Klose is just a little bit more talented everywhere in this fight. So I think he does a really good job at just being pretty much solid everywhere, and I don't see the same for Joaquim Silva. Whether it's he's going to wrestle him a little bit. Joaquim Silva's got decent grappling, but I don't know if that'll be the case here. Maybe he catches Drakkar Klose. I don't see it happening. Drakkar Klose by finish, I don't mind. At the end of the day, Joaquim Silva lost to Ricky Glenn by KO, who's not that good. Nasrat Haqparast by KO, who's pretty good, but again, doesn't really finish guys. So I think it kind of tells quite a bit. The only guys he's beaten was Jesse Ronson and a pretty old Clay Guida. So I'm going to go with Drakkar Klose in this fight. Up the card, we have Gene Silva versus William Gomis. And now this is the fight that I'm having a lot of issues picking, because Gene Silva, he got pretty much a toss-up in his last fight against Weston Wilson, who's just absolute shit. I mean, just going to be honest. Didn't pose any fights. Like, once he got hit, it was a pretty funny fight to watch, because he just was not fighting back. He's just getting hit, and you just see him react, and you just be standing there, like, right in front of him. I think he threw a couple punches at Gene Silva, but William Gomis, he doesn't really throw. I guess just getting into this matchup, William Gomis doesn't throw too much. Gene Silva, I would say both of these guys kind of just throw one punch and then just circle and like movement. One punch, circle, and movement. I just say Gene Silva's more of a power puncher, a more explosive guy. He's a heavier bag, I would say. Maybe not too heavier of a bag than William Gomis in terms of skill on the feet. Maybe I'll actually say Gomis has a little bit more, because I think he's got a little bit more options when he goes to the legs as well. But Gene Silva throws a lot of crazy stuff. Gomis circles around as well. We'll go after the legs. We'll kind of just pitter-patter at you, just try to get the points a little bit more based on speed here. So it's going to be more of a power versus speed matchup. Gene Silva's 5'7" compared to the 6 feet of William Gomis. A lot of people are taking William Gomis, and part of me thinks like maybe Gene Silva can actually get the upset here, because Gene Silva has a lot of power in his hands, and you saw it in his fight against Kevin Vallejos, which I did rewatch. When he was letting his hands go instinctually, I think is a word you can use there, he was like beating the shit out of him. Like there was a really nice, I think he had him up against the fence in like the second round, just beating the absolute crap out of him. A nice knee to the body as well. Like he was just throwing like an actual combo where the entire fight, it just seemed like it was just one punch, circle around, body kick, circle around, leg kick, circle around. And I think a lot of that's going to be open for him against William Gomis. And I don't think Gomis is going to finish Gene Silva here. And I think Gene Silva has a lot more power. The taller fighter, and Gomis is going to be a lot more open to the body for Gene Silva here. Maybe the wheel kick or the spinning back kick for Silva is not going to work against a guy like Gomis, who's a lot taller. But I think the power striker, who's going to be a lot smaller here, is going to be a lot harder for William Gomis to touch. So I'm actually going to go Gene Silva. I don't think a lot of people are taking Gene Silva, 27 years of age as well. They're both actually pretty young. He's going to be at a 4-inch reach disadvantage, which kind of scares me, because I'm thinking like maybe William Gomis is going to stay on the outside and kind of just jab at him at range and kind of mess with him that way. But I think Gene Silva can get this one done. At the end of the day, William Gomis, majority decision against Jarno Aarons, who actually looks decent now, weirdly enough. Split decision with Francis Marshall, who's decent. Giannis Gamori, he got a finish due to the body kick, but I don't think that's going to happen to Gene Silva here. I think Gene Silva is going to be able to do some more damage here, and I think that's what we're going to be looking at. I don't know if he gets the finish. Maybe he does in like the later rounds. I'm just trying to catch William Gomis, but the thing is if Gene Silva gets comfortable in this fight, starts unleashing some combos, I'm going to feel really comfortable with them. But if it's more of just, I'm going to strike here, they're just trying to point battle, just one shot, move around, lots of movement, then I think it'll be a lot closer than it needs to be. But if Gene Silva just pushes forward, pushes them up against the fence, just attacks the body, I think he has a really good chance here. And I do think the height's not going to benefit William Gomis in this fight. So I'm going to go with Gene Silva. I'm going to go Gene Silva by decision, 29-28. If not, I can also see him getting the finish. My worry is that Gene Silva might gas out a little bit as this fight goes on, but I don't know. I think this matchup is actually pretty decent for Gene Silva. So let's move on. Up the card, we have Elves Brenner versus Myktybek. Orolbai, as I think is how you say that name. Elves Brenner is actually really good. He had that really nice finish against Guram, which kind of surprised a lot of people. I think he's like a plus 300 underdog too, so pretty good win there. Also got a win over Kenan Kruszewski, which was actually a really nice KO, but he's getting touched up a little bit. But Orolbai, what I will say, he has a decent stand-up, not bad enough stand-up to where he'll get KO'd, because he is more of a wrestler and grappler. His stand-up's pretty decent. I think he'll be able to hang in there with Brenner. What I think will happen is Orolbai, who's a lot bigger of a guy, is going to go towards Brenner. Brenner's going to get really comfortable on the feet, is how I think this fight will go, especially starting out. Brenner's going to land some really nice shots, because even Orolbai was actually hurt in his fight against Medic, but Medic kind of just gassed out after that first round, and he was able to get the neck crank in the second. But I think Elves Brenner is going to look really nice on the feet here, and that's kind of the worry here. Maybe Brenner can get the finish or find the finish against Orolbai. I don't think so. I think Brenner's going to get really comfortable. Orolbai is going to be able to get the takedown. I think I can just see Orolbai just out-muscling him on the ground, just ragdolling him, out-grappling him. And I don't know if Brenner is going to get submitted, because at the end of the day, Brenner trains at Shoot Box. A lot of them have kind of that similar style, especially on the feet, very aggressive, very good boxing. I guess he's not as aggressive as the Mini Oliveira or Charles Oliveira. In that fighting style, he's just more really scrappy with his hands. He doesn't really go forward a crazy amount, giving up his hips. Like I'll just say like aggressively, just throwing a bunch of crazy stuff. But Orolbai, I think, will just wear on Brenner. I don't think Brenner's going to get submitted here. Maybe he does. Who knows? But I think Orolbai is going to get like a 30-27 decision, maybe 29-28, depending on how that first round goes, because he was getting pieced up against Uros Medic in that first round. And he was hurt very badly. Commentary wasn't really talking about it, weirdly enough, but he was not reacting too well to Medic's power. And Medic was a little bit wild there. But I do think as those takedowns start to land after that first round, where I do think Brenner gets a little bit too comfortable, I think it's just going to be a much different story, and it's going to be more about Brenner trying to stuff the takedowns than anything. So I'm going to go Myktybek or by decision in this. Up the card, we have Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Yasmin Lucindo. I'm going to go with Yasmin Lucindo, much younger fighter, was a 16 years is the age gap here. So Kowalkiewicz will be a lot older, but Kowalkiewicz has been fighting Diana Belbita, who I don't think is good at all. Won a decision against her. Beat Vanessa Demopoulos, who isn't good at all either. Savannah Gomez Juarez, Felice Herrig. Within the last couple of years, lost to Jessica Penne. So I think there's a level of fighter that she's beating at this point in her career, and I think Yasmin Lucindo is not that kind of a fighter. She lost to Yasmin Uruguay, who I thought was pretty good. Weirdly enough, Uruguay doesn't have that good of a chin, and Lucindo wasn't able to really find it, but she beat up Brogan Walker, who I guess did lose to Juliana Miller at the end of the day, so it's not really too great of a win, but beat Polyana Viana by an arm triangle, which is actually pretty impressive because Polyana Viana is really good on the ground. Of course, trains at shoot box as well, has good power in her hands as well also to that. So she just out-muscled her on the ground, which I thought was pretty impressive. I think Lucindo can beat up Kowalkiewicz in this fight, get the decision. At the end of the day, it's women's MMA, but Lucindo is actually pretty decent, and she has the power in her hands that I think will get notice on the judges' scorecards, maybe 29-28, but I think clear decision for Yasmin Lucindo. Up the card, we have Joe Anderson Brito versus Jack Shore. I'm going with Joe Anderson Brito. Jack Shore is actually really good. He's a former bantamweight. Before losing to Ricky Simone, he was at bantamweight, of course, and then he moved up to featherweight, which I do not like. I know Makwan Amirkhani has pretty good first rounds and then kind of just tires out and then loses, so I guess him looking impressive against Jack Shore early on didn't really mean too much because that's kind of his MO. But Jack Shore, he never really had crazy muscle definition at bantamweight, and then him moving up to featherweight, maybe he's kind of grown into the division since then for about a year. So maybe he's gonna be, he's not gonna look as bad as he did against Makwan Amirkhani. Just in shape wise, he did not look like a Joe Anderson Brito. I know Joe Anderson Brito is just absolutely jacked, but Jack Shore is again, just doesn't have that muscle definition, didn't have it at bantamweight, definitely did not have it at featherweight. And I think Brito's just going to piece him up really badly, and I don't mind him getting the KO here either because Brito's very good on the ground, very good submission skills, very good power in his hands, and I think he can just end up catching Jack Shore in this fight, who doesn't have that crazy power in his hands, is very talented, but I think he's there to be hit. It is at featherweight as well. Joe Anderson Brito's probably, physically speaking, probably in a way better shape than Jack Shore is. I'm going Brito by KO. I could see a late round KO too, a second or third round KO. I don't know. I just don't think this is Shore's division. I don't think he's going to be able to outmuscle Brito at all to the ground or anything like that. It's just a very bad matchup for Jack Shore in this fight. So I'm going to go Brito by KO. These close odds are definitely very interesting. I'm definitely putting my money on Joe Anderson Brito in this fight. Money line is probably pretty nice, minus 165. I'm guessing the odds will probably shift pretty heavily for Brito by the time fight day comes. So I'm putting my money on Brito here. I think he just, everywhere where Jack Shore wants to have him at. I know lower divisions tend to be a little bit more skilled. However, bantamweight to featherweight, I don't know. We just saw Aldo just completely ragdoll Cater, so who knows. But Brito's very good on the ground, very strong. He's going to be a lot stronger than Jack Shore in this fight. He's just going to have a lot more power. So I'm going to go KO for Brito. If not, I think the money line will probably suffice as well. So I'm going with Brito. Up the card, we got Paul Craig versus Cal Bahayo. I'm going Cal Bahayo. He's much better than Paul Craig. I think he's a lot better on the feet. Paul Craig, he lost to Brendan Allen in his last fight, who's pretty decent. But one against Andre Muniz, I guess that's a pretty decent one to have there. But Cal Bahayo is just going to be a lot better than Paul Craig, who's just not good on the feet at all. Is good on the ground, but again, just looks a lot slower. Like he looks like a light heavyweight at middleweight is basically what it is. He has the power in his hands, but at the end of the day, I don't think Cal Bahayo is going to be able to submit Paul Craig. I guess Brendan Allen was able to submit Paul Craig, so maybe he can do the same here, but I can just see him cracking Paul Craig and actually winning pretty early. Cal Bahayo doesn't actually have that grit of stand-up either, but he has been looking pretty decent. Beat Abbas Magomedov in his last fight, Mikhail Olasechik by submission, Makhmed Muradov. So he's winning against some pretty nice prospects at middleweight. So I'm going Cal Bahayo. Paul Craig's stand-up is just not good. So it's pretty decently easy to go with Cal Bahayo in this fight. I don't see Paul Craig submitting him. He's 36 years of age, making a pretty I want to say it's a rough weight cut because I don't know how bad he normally looks on fight day after the weight cut, but I'm going Borralho by early finish. Just a lot better stand-up than Paul Craig. Paul Craig has nothing to offer on the feet. Up the card, we have Michel Pereira versus Ihor Potieria. I'm going Michel Pereira. Ihor Potieria was struggling against Shogun Rua. Where's this fight at? Yeah, Shogun Rua, he was struggling against. Lost to Carlos Olberg by KO. Lost to Rodolfo Bellato by KO, who are actually some pretty decent fighters, so that's nothing to be mad about there. But won against Robert Brejcik, who I actually thought was decent. Potieria is looking a little bit better. However, Michel Pereira, who's moving up from welterweight recently to middleweight, said the same thing in his last fight against Mikhail Oseichik. It's just a different skill level there. And I think Michel Pereira at middleweight is actually kind of his division. I think he has the speed, he has the explosiveness, he has the power. I think he's going to be able to hurt Ihor Potieria. Potieria is pretty tough. However, I think Pereira here by KO, or late first, second round KO is what I like here, with a good Brazil crowd as well that's going to be pumping him up a little bit. So I'm going to go Michel Pereira by KO in the late first or second round here. I don't think Ihor Potieria is that great. Again, Brejcik I thought was a pretty decent fighter. I think I actually picked him, but we'll just see how this one goes. I think Pereira's just going to be a lot better than Potieria. Potieria is way too hittable on the feet. And I think Pereira's style just going forward, he ran through Mikhail Oseichik, who I think is a lot better than Ihor Potieria. I think even Mikhail did I read that right? No, that's Nikolai Ngumuranu, but Mikhail Oseichik is way better than Ihor Potieria, and he kind of just ran right through him. So I'm going Michel Pereira by KO. Up the card, we have Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino. I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino here. I do kind of worry because I kind of get the vibe that Vitor Petrino is like a little bit chinny. He has a lot of power in his hands, turning into a very good grappler recently. He did beat, what's his name? Rodolfo Bellato a couple times in his career, who Rodolfo Bellato is actually a pretty good grappler himself. Has ended up beating him a couple times as well, but you'll see Vitor Petrino really focus on his wrestling and grappling, especially recently in his last few fights. But again, a lot of power in his hands. A pretty good prospect, super young as well, 26 years of age, almost 27. He's still developing as well, so he's looking pretty good. Anthony Smith, though, what I will say is he's solid, and I could definitely see him landing a couple straight shots down the pipe, just being tough a little bit against Vitor Petrino. But honestly, Vitor Petrino, very good on the ground, very good on the feet, a lot of power in his hands. I think he's going to end up catching Anthony Smith and maybe potentially TKOing him. If not, yeah, I would say TKO late second or third round. I don't really think much of Anthony Smith at this point in his career. Almost, 36 years of age, lost to Khalil Roundtree by KO. Coming off a KO, 4 months ago, facing a guy with a lot of power. I don't like that for him. Won against Ryan Spann in the split decision. Lost to Johnny Walker, lost to Magomed Ankalaev. I'm going Vitor Petrino. I think he's a pretty good prospect. I do kind of worry that Anthony Smith can land on Vitor Petrino and potentially hurt him pretty badly and win a decision here, just being a little bit more technical than Vitor Petrino. And he's plus 360 underdog, so maybe that might be something I look at. Maybe just put a little bit of money on, but I'm going Vitor Petrino, much better prospect, much faster on the feet. The card we have Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. I think I'm going to go with Jose Aldo in this fight because at the end of the day, when Jose Aldo retired against Merab Dvalishvili, it was kind of like a delayed retirement. I don't know. I think he had like a kid or something like that. I'm not too 100% sure, but he didn't take much damage against Merab. Merab kind of leaked his retirement that he told him in the octagon. A lot of people got mad at him, but since retiring, he's been in boxing matches, beat Emmanuel Zambrano. Jeremy Stevens went to a draw with Esteban Espindola. So he's definitely been working on his boxing recently. And as you know, Jose Aldo, known for the kicks a little bit, and Jonathan Martinez, definitely known for the kicks quite a bit. And this is a massive step up for Jonathan Martinez. If he's able to get the win against Jose Aldo in Brazil, that would be a massive win. But honestly, Jose Aldo coming out of retirement on the Brazil card, he's going to get a lot of fans pumping him up. His boxing, he's definitely been working on that. We've seen him in the boxing ring, of course. And that's his leg kicks and all the work that he does there. I don't think he's going to get out leg kicked by Jonathan Martinez. Like, it's stuff he's done his entire life. I think Jose Aldo wins this fight probably by decision. My worry with Jonathan Martinez is it's very leg kick focused. Aldo, who's been working on the boxing, I think he's going to be a little bit better there. Adrian Yanez, and let's not forget Aldo. We were talking about him having like a second prime going down to bantamweight after what? Was it the Holloway? What fight was it? No. The Volkanovski fight. Marlon Moraes, Piotr Jan lost those 2 fights and then beat Marlon Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, and then ended up losing to Merab. But people were talking about him having like a second prime at bantamweight. Looked really good. Jonathan Martinez beat Adrian Yanez, which how good of a win is that really at this point? Saeed Nurmagomedov, which was a pretty close fight, and then beat Cub Swanson, who's pretty old at this point. So his wins haven't looked too great in retrospect. He is 30 years of age, so he's pretty young compared to Jose Aldo. He's going to be 7 years younger. But I do like Aldo in this fight. I think Jonathan Martinez, his wins haven't looked too great. This is a massive step up just compared to what Jose Aldo was doing before he retired to now. I know it's been, a year and 8 months since he's had an MMA fight or a UFC fight. But we'll see what happens here. I think this is definitely a pretty big step up for Martinez. We'll definitely learn a lot about him here. But I think Aldo by decision, 29-28 here. I don't think the leg kicks work as well for Jonathan Martinez. I think the hand speed of Jose Aldo will definitely come to play here. We'll see how ready he was for this fight. How much notice did Jose Aldo have for this fight? I think this card got put together pretty quickly. Probably like a few weeks, but he's been in shape. He's been active. He's been boxing. So I'm assuming he's going to be in pretty good shape for this one. So I'm going to go Jose Aldo by decision, weirdly enough. It's 50-50 on Tapology. You never really know with the guy like Aldo if it's out of bias a little bit more or not. But I do think Aldo does win this fight. It's, again, just he's a veteran in Brazil as well. Pretty big matchup for Jonathan Martinez. A massive step up, in my opinion, in skill for the guys that he's fighting. So I'm going Aldo here by decision. I think it's going to be a relatively close decision. I think it's going to be more of a, it's just going to be more of a point fight in my opinion. So I don't think anyone's going to get majorly hurt in this one. So let's move on. Up the card to our main event, we have Alessandro Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. When this fight was announced, I don't know, weirdly enough, yes, Steve Erceg probably didn't deserve it, but who really was there to get the title fight? Weirdly, it's not like Dustin Poirier who had a fight before, and you have 3 contenders on one card, and you're like, who's there to fight? Like you put 3 contenders who could easily have a title shot and get that fight on the same card and put them in that position on your biggest card, 300. But in this case, it was between Erceg and Myktybek. Their last card, I think they were both on the same card, and Erceg had the better win. I believe Myktybek actually went to a pretty close fight with Alex Perez on that card. So it seemed like it was more based off of that. Erceg had a better win. I know it was against Matt Schnell, so it was a little bit different. Matt Schnell is a very chinny guy, but you got to highlight real KO. That's why they give him the title shot here. But I'm just going to be honest, this is a much better matchup than what Myktybek would bring to Pantoja, in my opinion. I think Myktybek's a little bit too young. I think it would be a little too early for him to get the title shot, in my opinion. I don't think he's ready for it skill-wise. I think he should take the time and develop a little bit more at this point. But for this fight, this is a much better fight. I said it at the time, Steve Erceg has a really good chance at winning this fight. Just based on his skill, he's more of a technical fighter. He's very good on the feet, very good grappler as well. He hasn't really shown it too much, but he's a very good grappler. And Pantoja, of course, very good grappler. He's gonna go for it. Like, he's just a dog. He's an animal in there. I guess the cannibal kind of fits a little bit more. Astro Boy's a little bit weirder, but the cannibal kind of fits Pantoja a little bit more. He's gonna go for it. He's got power. He's gonna swing on you, and he's got the grappling. If you end up going to the ground as well. So for this one, I really kind of had to look into Steve Erceg's last couple fights. The thing with the Matt Schnell fight is Matt Schnell's going to get caught in the chin, and I didn't really even think Steve Erceg had that much power in his hands anyway. And Matt Schnell, at the end of the day, it's Matt Schnell, and he did put him out cold too. So it was a pretty impressive win nonetheless, but it's Matt Schnell. Like, let's be real a little bit. The Alessandro Costa fight is what I was really looking at for this matchup, because Alessandro Costa, Brazilian guy, very strong, very powerful, very wild on the feet, very similar to Pantoja, and was a pretty much aggressive onto Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg was able to find ways to win, but Alessandro Costa was able to get into mount on Erceg at one point. He was looking for a couple takedowns. Erceg has really good takedown defense, of course, but Costa was able to get him to the ground and control him for a little bit. Erceg has really good get-ups, of course, but it's going to be a really interesting grappling match if it does get there for sure. But the thing I notice is Erceg off his back foot, like he does a really good job at avoiding punches. His chin's kind of out there generally in his fighting style. So he does do a good job of like kind of just staying out of the way, backing up, like straight out of range, but he's there to be hit for sure. He does a very similar thing to Volkanovski, which kind of got Volkanovski KO'd in his last fight. It was where he puts his hands down when he circles out. He at least has a little bit more defense. Like he goes like this and circles out the way, which not a bad idea for sure. It blocks enough, but again, it's like naturally his chin's like sticking out. So it's like this. And he's not really throwing too much off his back foot. It's a lot of rotating. There's a lot of movement. So I think Pantoja, who's going to be putting Erceg on the back foot, who's going to be driving forward, who has that style where it's very wild, similar to Costa, who is very fast, very powerful on the feet, very strong, has decent grappling ability. And Pantoja, he has better grappling than Alessandro Costa. Maybe not as strong, because Costa's a pretty strong dude for what it looks like. At least it looks like he cuts a little bit, quite a bit at flyweight. But Pantoja, he's going to be a lot better grappler, and I do think he's going to win the early rounds of this fight. Now, towards the end of this fight, where we know Pantoja is going to gas out a little bit more, he's going to get a little bit more tired. You've seen it in his fights, but he kind of just pushes through. I think that's where Erceg will kind of shine, the more technical fighter, the more faster fighter on the feet. Has decent grappling skill. Maybe Pantoja kind of gasses out and he gets finished at the end of this fight. That would be kind of a little bit of my worry here. But I think early on, Erceg is going to land a few punches that are going to get Pantoja's attention, but he's just going to keep going forward. And I don't think Erceg will kind of have an answer for it, because again, this is a relatively short notice fight. Erceg's still 28, almost 29, so you might as well get the title shot out the way now. I know Pantoja is getting a little bit older, so maybe actually waiting wouldn't have been too bad, but skill for skill wise, Erceg has a very good shot here, and I do think this ends up being a super close decision. I think probably split decision. If not, it would be 48-47 unanimously, or 48-47 split decision. In my opinion, I think it could go either way. But again, I think Pantoja, with the style going forward, just kind of chatting his way through Erceg's shots. Erceg kind of worried about the hooks landing on him very wildly, similar to what Costa was able to do. He hurt Erceg very badly. He's going to be worried about that. He's going to be worried about moving out of the way. And I think Pantoja will eventually have chances to get his back, be that backpack at certain points, get those points in the early rounds. And I think we'll see him bank a few rounds at the beginning, maybe 2 rounds easily. And then maybe Erceg wins the 3rd round. And then Pantoja comes in for the 4th. And Erceg lands some really good shots in the 5th round, making a super close fight. But I think Erceg kind of has shown that he struggles against guys that are going to go forward with a lot of power, a lot of wild striking with the hooks. And he has shown that he can be taken down. So he does have good takedown defense. I think he has been working with Paul Craig a little bit as well. So it's a very interesting fight in that aspect as well. If it does turn into a grappling match and Pantoja loses, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a worry, because Erceg's very good on the feet. But we'll see how this one goes. This is a really big test up for Erceg here. Flyweight kind of got messed up because of Manel Cap, let's be real. So a lot of these guys haven't been really proven against bigger contenders. So we'll see how this one goes. Steve Erceg, very talented. I think he has a pretty good chance at winning this fight. Plus 200 underdog might be a little bit intriguing for this one, but I'm going with Pantoja, split decision victory. I think he's just style-wise going to be able to beat Steve Erceg in this one in a pretty close fight. So let me know who you guys have down below in the comments in the main event. Let me know what you guys think about this card, and I'll see you guys next time.